Welcome to Another Thing. I'm Larry Menti. Our focus this week as we enter the thickness of summer is beach safety. And with that in mind, we come to you from the beaches of Belmar, New Jersey. Tragedy struck this community last week. It was in those waters off of Belmar that two little girls died. It was June 15th when they found 13-year-old Mitzi Hernandez and 12-year-old Emily Pedro Gonzalez floating in the water. Mitzi died that night. Emily was taken off of life support days later. The community here surrounded the grieving families with love. As of last check, almost $100,000 was raised for those families. $20,000 came from Mayor Matt Doherty with funds raised at his mayor's ball. But our focus today is going to be on why it happened and how we can prevent it from happening again. And with that, we interview Mayor Doherty. Mayor, thank you so much for doing this, and of course our condolences to the community, to the family, and to Belmar Elementary School. I want to go back to June 15th, when this happened. Were there lifeguards on duty?
Prior to the end of the school year, we do not have lifeguards posted at the Belmar Beach. That's our policy. It's been it for years. We have them on the weekends, starting on Memorial Day weekend, but they're not on full-time 7 days a week until the school year ends. Unfortunately, the school year ended one day after this terrible tragedy that's drowning these two girls. So on occasion, we will keep a skeleton crew on the beach. We don't advertise it, and that may have been in play on Thursday, but clearly there was no one there at the time.
But not on that beach, and you had a big sign up saying there's no lifeguards on duty that they're showing in the media over and over again. And it's not just your policy, that's a policy up and down from Cape May all the way up to the Hudson Bay. They have policies that they're not on full staff all summer long. I guess my question is, should that change?
You know, that's something we're going to look at. We've been discussing that with our chief of police, who's also our public safety coordinator, public safety director, and see if that's worth doing going forward. I will tell you that we cannot protect people 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from going into the water. We can mitigate as much as possible. We can advise them, particularly not to swim unless there are lifeguards present. But at the same time, particularly for children, the ocean can be very inviting, and it looks beautiful. But you don't really comprehend the danger of the undertows or the riptides that may be present when you go out there. So
and I'm glad you said that, because I am talking about children. I went back and looked at the last decade, and it seems to be this time after Memorial Day, even when school's still in, until full staffing, that a lot of children, a lot of teenagers die. And the same day that the two children died here, two teenagers died in Atlantic City, New Jersey. With communities knowing that, I'm certain that'll play into your decision as to whether you start staffing during that time.
Yeah, I mean, it comes to a matter of having the staff for it and also the financial resources to pay for that staffing, because we don't put volunteers out. We put out paid, well-trained lifeguards. That's why we have not had a loss in decades at the Belmar Beach when there are lifeguards present. They provide a level of security, a blanket of security that's really unmatched, because again, they're professional, they're well-trained. But to have that, you got to be able to compensate them. We can't simply rely on people volunteering their time or their effort to try to save people, God forbid something happens.
And I understand it. I understand this. You were just the victim of the latest tragedy, but this has been happening for a long time, not in Belmar, but in other communities, which is why I asked the question. And with that, I want to go to beach tags for a moment. It's my understanding that the money raised from beach tags goes to maintenance of the beaches and protection of the beaches. At the end of a year, do you have money left over, or is that all that money used?
Typically, we have money left over. So as you mentioned, the money goes to operating the beaches. So that's the lifeguards, police, Department of Public Works, making sure it's clean, making sure it's safe for families. In our case, we don't charge anyone 15 years and under. So a family of four can come to the Belmar Beach for $16 during the season. If we have any money left over, we use that for capital improvements. So one of the things that we've done is we've added more mats. They're called Moby mats, M-O-B-I. Moby mats to the beach. You'll see them. They're blue mats that go out to the high water mark. So you can go out there, let's say you have limited mobility, like a hip problems or you're in a wheelchair. But the people who use it the most, honestly, are moms.
And that's very important, but you know where I'm going with this. If you have money left over, couldn't that money be used to hire lifeguards in the beginning of the season so you have full staffing from Memorial Day to Labor Day?
We're certainly going to look at that, no doubt, and see if there are the financial resources. And then we need the staffing itself. So we have a decent amount of lifeguards who are teachers themselves that simply aren't available until the end of the school year. Lifeguarding and teaching kind of work well together because of the scheduling. So that's typically, in the past, how it's always been handled, where we don't have lifeguards on full-time except for weekends from Memorial Day to the end of the school year. And then from the end of the school year through Labor Day, they're on 7 days a week.
Are there other things you're looking at other than that? I mean, for instance, these two little girls were found at 6:30. There has been a continuing problem up and down the coastline with people coming to swim after the lifeguard gets off duty, usually because they don't want to pay for the beach tags. They come from poorer communities, or they're poor themselves, they don't want to pay the beach tags. Is there a way to fight that, or is there a way to combat that? You can't close the beach, right?
Well, we don't want to close the beach. I mean, people go to the beach to recreate, to socialize, not necessarily to go into the water. What we do in the off season, we don't publicize this very much, is that we'll have a skeleton crew on. So we'll go into the evening, particularly if it's a beautiful day like today. You're right, people will come after 6 o'clock, after the beach veg checkers leave, so they can get on for free. We don't want to see tragedies like this ever occur. So we do keep skeleton staff on, weather dependent, into the evening hours until we think the beach is clear of everybody.
And as you've said, you've had a pretty good record until this. So,
we have an outstanding track record. We have the best lifeguards at the Jersey Shore.
But something like this causes you to rethink everything.
It causes you to challenge the current policy you have of putting lifeguards on prior to the end of the school year. The question is, how do we make that happen? Now, we have some time to figure that out over next year, because again, from now going forward through Labor Day.
Right.
But I will tell you, even after Labor Day, in September, we have some of the best weather. But we don't have necessarily the financial resources or the staffing for that. So I know we're talking about before Memorial Day, but there's also a real risk after Labor Day. So that's why the biggest thing we stress is only swim when there are lifeguards present. The Atlantic Ocean, it looks beautiful, but it can turn deadly in a matter of seconds.
Sir, I thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, Larry.
Mayor Matt Doherty from Belmar, New Jersey. When we come back, coming up next, a water safety expert tells us how to survive a riptide. That's when Another Thing continues.